Hi, everyone. Today on our Epic Experts interview, we are excited to have with us Ross Barrable from Crustanium Gongs. Welcome, Ross.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I love talking about all things sound healing, and we'll get into a description of the business. But let's start with some of the influences that got you involved. Like, how did you get involved in sound healing and understanding harmonics and that kind of thing?
Okay. Um, I think the thing that got me really interested in harmonics and sound. Well, when I was a kid, we all got piano lessons, and so that gave me a real. It gave me a basic foundation for understanding music on a piano and scales and just reading. I was never a really good piano player, but I think the first experience that really impacted me as a child around the power of music. I can remember I grew up in Canada in rural southern Ontario, and I would walk out the um, Friday night wanting to go out. No, don't have a girlfriend. What am I gonna do? Jeez. I ended up walking out the railroad tracks, which were 300 yards from my home, on the outskirts of the small town. I would walk out these railroad tracks that were up on a berm, and on each side of the railroad tracks were these huge frog ponds. And I can remember walking out there and hearing these, in the spring, and hearing these frogs chanting back and forth between themselves over top of the railroad tracks, and walking out there and just standing there and listening to this chorus of frogs singing, and just being in this state where I was like, you're just immersed in this harmonic choir of frogs singing, and just the timeless space of that experience, and that longing to connect that you have as a teenager and wanting to have a girlfriend or go out or have. I was a loner, man. I was always in loner sports, individual sports, but feeling that sound just filled my whole microcosm with this harmonics, and just feeling contented, and just like that longing to connect was fulfilled in that moment with this sound. And I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, that was my first experience of going, what's going on here? Sound has the ability to harm. And my the way I express it today is harmonic sound is the medium of spiritual transcendence. That's For me. That's how harmonic sound works for me, and it doesn't matter whether it's listening to the wind through the aspen trees, listening to the waves crash on the shore, listening to frogs. I love listening to crickets in the middle of in August. Um, so that was my first impression. And then when I was after my first year of college, I went and traveled, hitchhiked around Europe, and I found myself in Egypt. This is 1970. Went to the Great Pyramids, and that was a time when you could get away with stuff. We went through a tour on the pyramids on the inside, and then five of us took off from our guide, ran around the corner of this 13-acre Great Pyramid of Giza, and climbed up the corner, the edge of the pyramid, and we sat up on top of that pyramid for 3 hours.
Wow.
And it felt like 30 minutes. 30, it was just that experience of being on top of that geometrical structure had a profound effect on our perception of time. It's like the top of that pyramid is an electromagnetic null zone, and that tweaks your perception of magnetics, tweak your perception of time. And then when I came home from that, I said, something's going on there. And that launched me into studying sacred geometry, because the pyramids is one of the, it's an octahedron. It's a half of an octahedron. So it's those two things, the sound and geometry. That's what really got me interested. That's the core thing that I bring together to create my sculptures. And then, of course, I started, I discovered the folk harp, right? And in playing the folk harp, this thing here, this is the ultimate wind harp. Okay, so I would take my folk harp outside in the wind, and the wind would blow through it and create these incredible harmonic tones. I thought I was listening to an angelic choir, and when I heard that, I just was. It's one of those sounds, just like this is strangely familiar, but I've never heard it before.
Right.
You know, it's just it's such an old deep soul memory of that sound of all these chords being generated as the wind blows through the harp. And I said, I've got to take this concept and make it sculptural, and that's what launched. That was 40 years ago, and that's when I started building wind harps. My first wind harp was exactly the same shape as a folk harp because I knew that worked, and it was made out of reinforced concrete and stainless steel, weighed 3 tons, and it was a monster. It was like stupid, but it worked. So it so so that was my first harp, and of course I got away from concrete. So I had free rebar. But so that's what launched me into the wind harps, and when I was 38, I got in a horrible car wreck, and a 2x6 came to the windshield, hit me in the head, knocked a hole in my sinus bone. In the reconstructive surgery, they used a piece of titanium, and they put it in right here. It's about a 2.5 inch piece of titanium to hold the bone in place.
Wow.
Amazing experience. That was my midlife crisis wake up call at 38.
That's really a third eye opening. I mean,
Well,
I'm not sure anybody wants one of those, but you got it. So
Bammo. So yeah, so that was like, it's like, Ross, get on track here, buddy. Follow your soul journey, and when you get off track, universe has ways of getting your attention
yes.
that way. Um, so that's introduced titanium into my world. So I started looking at titanium, and then I said, let me try making wind harps out of titanium. I did that. And titanium is a very resonant metal. It's very lightweight, half the weight of steel, twice the strength, very flexible, but extremely strong. Very, the word for titanium is um, um, really durable. It'll come to me. But so, but it has incredible acoustic properties. So I worked with titanium and wind harps and built hundreds of wind harps with titanium, and then discovered gongs 2 years ago, and said, okay, let's check out let's make a titanium gong. And so that's where I'm at. That's what I'm very passionate, excited about right now, because the gong has really been received in the West as a sound therapy instrument in a big way.
What was your first experience with gongs?
My first experience with gongs was probably about 20 years ago, in Santa Cruz. I went and I was out there traveling, visiting somebody. I went to a yoga, um, did a yoga session, um, and it was led by a Sikh dude with the turban, all the whole deal. Had the white thing on. He was deeply embedded in the Sikh tradition. Had a great 45-minute yoga practice, and then he played the gong. And it's like after you do yoga, you're super relaxed. We're laying down doing shavasana, and he plays this gong, and I went, "Oh my God, this!" And you go so deep because your body's already so relaxed, and it was like this. I mean, I totally went unconscious. All right, you just go into this deep level of I don't know, delta or theta, what it was, but it was very deep rest. And that was my first experience, and I had forgotten about that um, until my interest in gongs was rekindled. But the Sikhs have been using gongs for hundreds of years. It's deeply embedded in their tradition.
Right.
So Kundalini yoga, it's all over Kundalini yoga. So it's It's here to stay.
Sound is so transformative and so powerful. I mean, everything, music of the spheres, right? It's like every single thing from the planets as above, so below, all the way to every little bit of cells of our own beings and the trees and everything else. So it, it's so crazy to me that kind of goes past people's conscious minds, like we have to like rediscover it. Like you said, hey, when I was in high school, I heard these, symphonies basically of all of the frogs
Oh,
singing, and so then it's like years later, and like you said, they're like, boom, wake up, we gave this to you when you were, in high school.
yeah.
So how does one take what you're hearing and I can see that you're embodying it when you're talking about it. How do you, like, what's your background? Are you an engineer? I mean, how did you just basically say, okay, yeah, I'm going to go and create these? How does somebody take what they're hearing and their passion for it and then be able to create it? Like, is there a technical background that you have, or did that come to you? How did that
No,
all unfold?
I'm pretty much self-taught in terms of, I took a year of engineering in college and then went and traveled for a year in Europe and came back and got a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, for crying out loud, and have not really pursued that. Um, but I think you just have to have a love of sound and love of music, and I think that's what really has driven me is um, I've always had this feeling just when listening to music, if you has always really mostly not music with words, but music that's just instrumental music that has a full melody line, and I always felt like God, there's just I experienced that music had the power to shift my state of consciousness. I was very aware of that, and that it would calm me down and would just put me assist me to enter a state of peace and harmony. I had that experience from playing the flute and just little piano things and but I think it's been embedded in my spiritual journey right from the beginning is sound. And um, but 20 25 30 years ago I discovered Surat Shabda Yoga, which is the divine science of light and sound. And Surat Shabda Yoga is the study of connecting the Surat, which is our soul, to the Shabda, and the Shabda is Sanskrit for the sound current. So, like, in the beginning was the word. It's not the word written on a page. It's the word is a very poor translation for vibration. The word vibration. In the beginning was vibration. In the beginning was the vibration of love, of universal love. That is original cause. When they talk about the Big Bang, well, the Big Bang continues to keep on banging. It didn't just happen just once.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
ongoing, and that is the Big Bang is the Shabda. It's the sound current, and that permeates all from my understanding and the spiritual tradition that I'm participating in. That is original cause. That's that vibration that's sent out from the Godhead that creates all manifested reality on all dimensions of consciousness. And if you buy into that model of creation, um, that's what we are. We are vibration manifested, and
Right.
through all cymatics, you can see how sound structures matter.
Yes.
Well, sound also structures consciousness too, right?
Totally. Dr. Emoto's work, went
Yeah.
and proved all of that.
All of
And
that.
like you said, I mean, to prove it to yourself, you just have to have an experience of deep listening with really almost any instrument or any beautiful sound in nature or not so beautiful sound in nature, just sound in general, to be present with it and open to how it transforms you. And
Exactly.
hopefully, when they're created, the intention is for a positive transformation. We do have some sounds that are, not always resonant, but a little bit dissident. And fireworks, they're not always fun. We just had that whole experience, but still, you can kind of, I think, go into the sound and find a stillness and a place in which you can interact and have some level of relationship and transformation from it.
So I think we're all a little bit of sound geeks here. So for
Totally.
the people watching and listening that aren't quite as geeked out as we are, maybe describe Cymatics a little bit. Lisa and I are familiar with it, but I don't think that that's like a common thing that people are familiar with.
Okay, so when you drop a pebble in a pond, you get these concentric rings. That's a waveform that's generated from stimulating that water. That's a form of cymatics. But cymatics, the way that the scientific study of cymatics, they create a membrane, like a flat membrane. They put a speaker underneath it and they sprinkle sand on top of it. And when you vibrate that membrane with different frequencies, what's generated is these different symmetrical patterns that are they look like all these different sacred geometrical, they're symmetrical, and they grow and change as a function of the frequency, and they're all geometrically proportioned. And what's interesting is the higher the frequency, the more complex the geometry. But what that does is prove that different sounds creates different geometrical configurations based on the frequency of the sound. And when you extrapolate that and look at nature, you can see a lot of different cymatic patterns show different shapes, like on the shape of the back of a turtle, all of the different the way it's segmented, and different leaf patterns and stuff. There's just all of nature's. It's pretty easy to get that sound structures matter. And what
Right.
they're doing with cymatics now is they're running it through water and photographing this three-dimensional sound bubble in water that are generated, and they are able to video this stuff in real time, and so you can see this sound bubble pulsing and moving in the water. It's just beautiful, so fascinating to see. Um, it really helps us, I think, understand the power of sound and how it affects us, and especially the fact that we're 70% water, our body. So boy, we are so affected by sound. I mean, our water is vibrating to the sound, not only the sounds of nature, but the sound of our own voice and our speaking sound. We're creating waveforms with our voice and the tonality of our voice, and
Right.
and yeah.
As same as bones, our bone structure is also bouncing all of those sounds and resonating them throughout us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get a little more specific about the product. So you mentioned that after the accident you had titanium in your body. So
Mm-hmm.
how did that influence how you were creating? You mentioned the sound sculptures, but how does that influence the gongs? And talk a little bit about how your gongs are unique because they are titanium.
Okay. Um, yeah, I feel like titanium is a 21st century metal. And there's a couple of reasons. Number one is 95% of all reconstructive surgery nowadays is done using titanium. So here's a metal that's biocompatible with our physical biology. They're doing elbows, they're doing hips, knees, tooth implants are all titanium. Titanium has an ability to knit with our bones really in the jawbone. It knits in there really, really well. After about 4 months, you can't get that thing out. You got to dig it out. So there's a real compatibility there. It's non-magnetic as well. And I like that part because in my reality, when something's non-magnetic, it doesn't favor one polarity over the other. It's absolutely neutral. So to create a musical instrument out of a metal that's lightweight, non-magnetic, has a resonant affinity for the human body, that's a plus in my world. So to play this gong, um, it has very deep low harmonics, and and a very, very long sustain. That's another thing about titanium. It has a very long sustain, and I've made a lot of bells out of titanium. Before I started making the gongs, I had them spun, and did some really interesting heat treating processes with it that changed the crystalline matrix of the bells. And that really that sold me on the power of titanium as a musical instrument. But so I thought, man, there's only one other person that I know of on the planet that's making gongs out of titanium, and he's in Germany. He's a third generation gong maker and metalsmith, and I'm sure he has his story. I haven't directly corresponded with him yet. Um, and there's me in the West, and so I'm very excited about the titanium gong, and I think it has a place. It sounds totally different than the traditional bronze gong that comes from China and India and Thailand, and the Tibetan singing bowls, of course. You know, they're a bronze alloy, bronze and
Right.
copper. Titanium has its own unique sound. And I'm not interested in duplicating the sound of the bronze gong. It has its place, its own sacred place in sound therapy. But I think titanium has its own place too. So I have one here.
Yeah, let's have
Here's
a
one.
little demo of that. It'd be great.
Let me get a mallet. So here's the titanium gong.
It's
This one
beautiful.
is 32 inches in diameter, and let me see if I can get that a little closer. I anodize these to get these different colors. This one has a kind of a brass face, and then the edge profile is more of a coppery dark browns. Um,
Yeah, they're very beautiful.
so I can anodize any colors on here in the rainbow, purples, golds, blues, and they just look stunning on these gongs, and they're totally UV stable. These can be outdoors, but let me, I don't know how well that's coming through.
Yeah, it's coming through.
So what's different about playing these gongs is you barely have to touch them because they're so lightweight. It's like you wouldn't be able to hold a 32-inch gong up with one arm that's made out of bronze.
No.
Not at all.
But you're a lot stronger than that. But
And
so
there's
the
so many overtones coming from that with such a small amount of pressure that
energy.
yeah,
Yeah,
energy that you're
I
putting out.
don't have to. I mean,
Yeah, the sustain and overtones is amazing.
right. So you know that you play these gongs totally different than a bronze gong. It's a whole different thing, and I'm learning how to do that and how to teach it. Um, but the way I like to play the gong is usually when the gong's on a stand, and I'll stand right there, right next to it, so I'm able to stand up and move. And I always play below the horizon. This is the horizon right in the middle. I usually start right down here. I mean, that just, oh man, that low tone. And I get right in the space. I'm right there when I'm playing that gong. So I'm receiving the not only auditorily, but I'm feeling that vibration right across my heart and throat chakra. I'm in the field, and that's what I'm encouraging people to do. Is I think gong baths are awesome and an awesome experience to lay down and receive it. But I think what's even more powerful is to play the gong for yourself.
Yes.
Then you get to experience that your first cause, and you can just close your eyes and just explore that gong, in different areas of it. And I can be gone for 20 minutes just playing the gong, and it's like 2 seconds.
It's
So
easy. It's easy for that to happen for sure.
oh yeah, and I think when we do that for ourselves and we get to experience that power and how listening to these tones shifts our state of consciousness by just focusing on our attention on that sound. I think that's one of the most powerful things about playing a singing bowl or a gong or a bell or whatever, is that the sound is so beautiful. It's so easy to keep my attention focused on the sound. It totally transcends the monkey mind. The mind's just always busy, busy, busy. But if I give it something to do, if I focus my attention on the sound, it effortlessly goes there. And then that process just stills my mind, it quiets my mind, but it's got a job. And it's listening. My tagline on my website is follow the sound.
That's
You
a
know,
great tagline.
It
so
is.
simple. And that's the power, to me, the simple power of playing a gong or whatever musical instrument. These are just tools. They're not going to do it for you, but they're a tool to assist us to focus and still the mind so we can, experience a moment, 3 seconds of that piece. 3 seconds can be an infinity. When the mind's still, that's when the download happens, right? Whatever it takes to get there, doesn't matter. Music's a good tool.
Well, it's like you were
Great tool.
saying earlier when you and your friends were in the Giza pyramid and how you were there for 3 hours, but it felt like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And we had a similar experience when we went to the Integratron out in California. I'm not sure if you know of it or not.
Yeah.
We were at a
Yeah.
didgeridoo festival and we went in there and we were playing music and we literally were just like, wow, this is the most rejuvenating thing with all of these didgeridoos and gongs and bowls and people toning. And when we left there, we thought, we must have been here for like we don't even know how long we're there, but it felt, I think, like 35, 40 minutes or whatever. And we were in there for like hours because just time and space just completely disappeared,
It collapses.
Yeah. And
Sound collapses our perception of time. It truly does. Yeah.
can you talk a little bit more about the sacred geometry elements? I know you incorporate them on some of the gongs, actually painted symbols, but how is it incorporated in another way through your intention, or how is that interwoven with the titanium?
Okay. Um, one of the ways that I tune the gongs is I hammer nodes on the back side of the gong if it needs it, to tune it. And as sound propagates through a medium, it does it holographically, but it also does it in a very um, symmetric, sacred geometrical way. So as sound propagates itself through this circular, just imagine it's a pool of water. You hit the gong in the middle, and these rings of vibration go out. So I will hammer different geometric patterns on there. That one of my favorite ones is a hexagram because that's the geometry of water. Um, and crystals are hexagonal geometry. So and titanium has a close packed hexagonal geometric lattice to its molecule. So that's appropriate. So I'll hammer those little nodes on the face of the gong, and what those nodes do is they create a little stress point on the soundboard, which causes an interference pattern as the sound waves travel through the circular membrane and bounce back. So it just adds another level of complexity into the harmonic structure when I add those in there. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. There's no blueprint to tuning these gongs, man. I'm still figuring it out. I mean, you you just follow your intuition and see what word sounds good. So I'm learning. I've built 40 gongs so far. I've sold 40 gongs so far. I've built about 55, and I'm learning. I learn with every gong, and it's just an endless learning curve of what works, what doesn't work.
Are they tuned to a particular key?
No,
But are
I
they
really,
also,
I
is it
really thought. Go ahead.
440, or do you do it to a particular frequency, or kind of basically like intuitively this is what this gong is supposed to be?
Yeah, I've some gongs. I listen to the fundamental. I'm like, oh, that's 144. That's set the low tone. That's really close to 72. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it there, or I get a D, a 140. D is a 144. I'm talking Pythagorean tuning with A at 432. Um, I kind of, if it's close to that, I can raise the pitch of a gong. I can't lower it.
Okay.
When you hammer a stress point on it, you're tightening the membrane, which raises the frequency. So it's like a drum. This is just like a metal drum, no different. You tighten the drum head, it goes high, the pitch goes higher, right? Smaller drum head is a higher pitch than a bigger drum head. Same thing with a gong. Um, but more and more, I'm going. The gong. Every gong has its own state of consciousness.
I see all of my instruments as alive, and that they're these beings that they're helping me learn and shift and grow. And so yeah, anytime somebody gets one of your gongs, I think they're gonna be like, whoa, this is a live being that is interacting with me and my consciousness. So it's pretty
Oh
cool.
yeah. So I just let them be what they want to be, and like what? It's like I know what it's supposed to be. I don't think so.
Right.
Right. So I just listen to it, and really I'm learning. I guess I'm learning how to listen more and more and more about what is this? What is this gong? Where does it want to vibrate at? What does it sound like? It's really an intuitive process, and every gong's different, and I celebrate that. Every gong is totally unique. There's no way, and there's absolutely no way I could make two gongs sound the same, and I don't want to. So when someone buys a gong and he gets they try them all. It's just like you go walk into a guitar shop, you play 15, 20 guitars before you find the one that's like, okay, this is my guitar.
Exactly. It's
Same thing.
awesome.
And
Yeah.
have you experimented with other tunings beside the Pythagorean, or?
I'm pretty much locked into I tune my harp to A at 432. And I've been doing that for a long, long time before it was the cool thing to do.
It just sounds right. 440s, I mean, what we're used to, but the 432 is just,
Well,
it feels totally different.
it's, I can't say that I can hear the difference, but I
You
can
can
feel
feel
it.
it. Yeah.
And when my harp's freshly tuned with A at 432 in the Pythagorean scale, I can drop into the zone just like that. And when it's at 440, I struggle. And my mind's busy. I'm trying to, okay, I'm thinking way too much.
Yep.
But it supports getting in the zone. I'll guarantee you that. It absolutely does. So, and the numbers, 4 plus 3 plus 2 is 9. And D is one, that's A, and D is 144, that equals 9. All the E is 342. That's 432 reversed. So all these numbers equal 9, and 9 is this incredible number of completion. I'm into numbers.
Yeah. 3 times the power of 3. I mean,
Yeah,
so
great. So yeah.
I think you wanted to show us too, if you have time to just walk out, because we saw the gong, but you were gonna maybe show everybody. Hopefully, the internet will stay healthy, and we can see your wind harps, your sound sculptures.
So can you see?
A little to the yeah. Oh man,
Yep.
Well, that
beautiful.
that
Yeah.
that's the Spirit of the Wind harp. It's made out of stainless. It's 13 feet tall. It has stainless steel strings on it. No, it has titanium strings on it. The wind plays it, but you can also play it with mallets. We play the strings with mallets, so that's that harp.
It's beautiful.
And yeah, it's really a singer. That one. Um, that one doesn't have a top on it. And then there's this one here.
Oh, cool.
You see that one?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's called the Song of Aquarius, and it is it in there? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It is 12 feet tall. The whole top section of that is all titanium. Has a 72-degree spun titanium resonator bowl on it, and then the base is all stainless steel base, and it rotates. Not by sometimes the wind will rotate it, but I can turn it.
Wow.
That's cool.
And that thing really, it's got some, it has some titanium and some nylon strings on it, both. But it's the most amazing harp. That geometry is a 9-sided polyhedron, and every surface is an equal surface area. So
There's like interesting light coming off of it. It's like we're going right up to the angelic realm, So
Yeah, we can see that on our end.
let's
On
super
go.
the
cool. Yeah. Super
And
cool.
I make a smaller one here, kind of for backyards. It's this guy.
It's beautiful too.
See that one? Where is
Yep.
Yep.
he? Where is he here?
There you go.
Is that it there?
Yeah.
Okay. That harp. That's called the Flower of Life. You can see the Flower of Life symbol on it there.
Yep.
Yes, E.P.I.C also has an affinity for the flower of life symbol.
Yeah, and that harp's got 9 strings, and it's lovely, lovely little harp, powder coated, so it's pretty stable. I put one just like that on one of the pedestrian bridges that goes across the San Juan River downtown Pagosa Springs, and
Nice.
so.
And tell people where they can go to hear and see both the gongs and the wind harps.
So my website is www.harmonywindharps.com. Just like it sounds, harmonywindharps.com. And you can see a whole selection of wind harps on there. And the Gong website for the titanium gongs is crystaniumgongs.com. Let me spell it for you. That's Crystanium, Crystanium gongs. And I called it Crystanium because they're crystallized. It's a crystallized titanium. My heat treating process recrystallizes it. It has a crystalline basic. It has a very crystalline sound to it, and it resonates the cranium. Therefore, we get crystanium.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's
Are,
been a
are,
wonderful ride.
are you a weather vane now with your titanium? Do you know when things are changing pressure and
Not, no, I don't really get that, any activation there from from the weather. Um,
I was
it's,
going to ask that earlier. I was going to ask if people who have had titanium replacements, joints and things like that, if they somehow feel the vibration differently from the titanium gongs than people who don't have.
well, I have noticed that the gals in Pagosa that have the Edge of Silence,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Linda and
um,
Tom. Uh-huh.
Linda and Tom Bondi,
Yeah.
she's got some titanium hips, and she loves she loves the titanium gong. It's her favorite gong. I can say that because it's true.
Cool.
And she has like 40 gongs in there, and we're doing gong baths like twice a week, twice a
Right.
month. But yeah, there's so many people have titanium parts in their bodies nowadays. We can with the all the knees and hips and feet, ankles. That's amazing. So I mean, that's pretty amazing that this metal is. And also, here's a metal that we're using to create spaceships that are taking us to the stars. This is a space age metal. So
So interesting.
yeah, it has a place. It has a song. It has a story to tell, I think.
So we like to close with a couple of questions. One, if you could go back in time and you could offer your younger self some advice,
Hmm.
what would that be?
Hmm. Um, really, I think the advice I would offer myself as a young person in my 20s, going to college, would be really follow your joy. Do what really makes you trust yourself enough to really follow what you love,
Hmm.
you know, and and life will unfold in amazing ways. Yeah, you know,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
And then the second question would be, if we fast forward 5 or 10 years, what do you see as your greatest impact or contribution to the community, humanity, you and or your amazing sound sculptures that you've made?
Well, I'll tell you what's on the dream board, and that is a large scale universal sound garden
Mm.
Awesome.
I,
that has.
I have goosebumps too, so it's
yep,
gonna
I got
happen.
goosebumps.
It's on the way. It's on the way, Ross. In fact,
Like,
I'm thinking that since it's titanium, you should get a hold of NASA and have them put one up there when they go and see if we can communicate from here to there with it. You know.
uh, well, there's no doubt that these wind harps are are communication devices. They're antennas, and but something large scale with some, out of titanium, the finest metals. The money's not an object, and interactive sculptures like gongs and some of Richard's instruments, and from free
Free
notes,
notes.
and really pull in the best sound sculptors and really make it an interactive harmonic sound sculpture, but in a location where, man, you got to hike to this place. It's not just, it has its own soundscape that's already really sacred and quiet, and there's not a bunch of competition from the world.
Right.
So you got to you got to put some effort to get there. That's ideal. I don't know if that would happen, but allow, because the wind harps transpose the energy from nature and they create these beautiful harmonic tones, and I'd like to see that happen. I've done small ones. My backyard is a small sound garden. We're putting 3 sculptures in a park in Pagosa Springs this summer. um, so there are many replicas of that, but I have a design in mind, and so I'm just looking for somebody who wants to play, that has the other parts of the equation,
Awesome. That
you
sounds
know?
amazing. we'll be first in line to hike in and check it out for sure. We said your websites, but so can people actually come and make an appointment to physically play the gongs?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can contact me. My phone number is on my website. You can send me an email through either website. And yeah, give me a ring and set up an appointment. Come on over and play the gongs. Listen to the wind harps in the garden, in the sound garden, and I'm happy to share what I do. Absolutely delighted to.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Ross. We appreciate all your time today and all your service through Sacred Sound.
you are so welcome. Thank you for sharing what I do through your platform. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So again, check out harmonywindharps.com and christaniangongs.com. For more information on EPIC, go to epicconsciousliving.com. Thank you. Namaste.
Blessings.